Welcome to the All Access Entertainment Podcast. I am your host, Joseph Bruen. As we continue on with Sci-Fi Week, a very special guest this week, none other than Mr. Kenneth Coombs. Ken, thank you so much for joining us this week.
It's a pleasure, Joseph. Thank you.
It's great to have you here. We're going to take a deep dive as we continue showcasing Star Wars, one of the great sci-fi films of our time, basically. So rewinding back a little bit, growing up as a kid or a young adult, some of your favorite films or first films that you remember?
Oh, I'm quite old, so I'm trying to think. Going really way, way back, the very first film I saw was the Disney Snow White, the original one. So, I go back a long, long while. But later on, I really wasn't interested in sci-fi in those days. I was more interested in Humphrey Bogart films, that type of the film noir. Those are the ones that really interested me.
And at what point did you decide to try to get your feet wet and get into it yourself?
Well, for years I'd been acting stage-wise, and in those days over here, you had to be a member of a union to work, but you couldn't join the union if you didn't have a job.
Right.
Sort of chicken and egg. So I managed to get into the union, and about a year later, I started working. The first thing was Eye of the Needle with Donald Sutherland. But the third film I did was Return of the Jedi. It was then called Revenge of the Jedi, before it changed its name. So that was really how I came into it. And then I'd always wanted to be an actor. And as I say, I came through basically stage work into films. Later on, because I also had a business career as well through my early days of filming. I'd been working in Africa. I'd run an import-export business, dealing with Nigeria and places like that. Before that, I was in advertising. So it was something I always wanted to do. And,
so you finally got to achieve your dream at that point.
Well, exactly, yeah. And 45 years later, I've just stopped working now for health reasons more than anything. I'd really love to be able to continue working, but it's not practical. So therefore, I've now got to look back on what I've done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at all that you have done. And, like you said, 45 years later, here we are still talking about it to this day. So it's left an impact on a lot of people. Yeah.
That was so incredible. I mean, I remember when the first Star Wars came out. And in fact, I actually went to a gala opening of it in London. And I'd never heard about Star Wars then. And it was quite impressive. I always remember the opening with the music and the landing of the aircraft over there. And it had a real effect on me. And then I forgot about it, because that was, about 6 years earlier. And I turned up, my agent had sent me to this job. I didn't know what it was or anything. And then I sort of got involved with Star Wars. And it wasn't really till later on, about late 90s, when I realized that there was such a following for people, even just the sort of walk-on parts. So I managed to get on the circuit and did a number of conventions. And I was being very, very lucky in that I went over to Japan for a week. I've been to Germany about 4 or 5 times, France, Spain, the film festival in Spain. They did a reproduction of the scene, which I went with Dave Prowse for about 3 days. So yeah, and I stopped doing the conventions about 3 years ago.
And what was David Prowse like? What was he like as a man?
Oh, a very nice person, yeah. Very good company. I appeared in quite a few things with conventions with him, so I got to know him quite well. But more so when we went to San Sebastian Film Festival, because there were just there were about 3 of us went together. So I got to know him a bit more then, actually. He was still in fairly good health, but obviously towards the later stage, his mobility was getting very bad. But he was really a very, very nice man. And I have a lovely picture somewhere of us, the 2 of us in San Sebastian. And I sort of posted it on my Facebook page, saying Darth Vader and his Imperial officer in retirement.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now you're getting the opportunity to travel the world. Essentially, you're going to all these different places. You're going to all the different Comic Cons. Who are some of the other actors from the film that you kind of became close with over the years, just being able to interact with them?
I just think one or two is Brian Wheeler, who was, I can't remember what part he played in it, but we did quite a few shows together. I'm trying to think actually offhand. My mind's gone blank in that respect. It might come back to me in a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're going to these conventions. What is it like meeting the fans one-on-one? Is there a fan interaction that stands out?
There is. I mean, it's always nice. They're queuing up. They're wanting to have a photograph and an autograph. But it's always nice to chat to them. And I got to know them quite well, having done quite a few conventions. And the people tend to keep on coming to the same conventions, actually. They may not want your autograph, but they'll come for a chat. And that's what's so nice about it. Talking about Star Wars, about some of the other films I did, because I was very lucky in that I appeared in a few other well-known films, like Batman, Superman, what else I'm just trying to think of, and a few of the Bond films. So therefore, there were a lot of people who I sort of got to know. And I still keep in touch with them, obviously, through Facebook. They all tend to be sort of friends of mine on Facebook, which is nice.
That's the nice part about going to these conventions. Like you said, it almost becomes an extended family. You get to see these people.
Very, very true, yeah.
Over and over.
Very true. It is in the same way when you're working, you tend to often work with the same people, or not all the time, but you bump into somebody maybe 2 or 3 weeks later on something. Because I mean, at one stage I think I was doing that for 4 or 5 different TV or films a week. This was back in the late 80s, early 90s. So you tend to sort of bump into your friends working with them all the time.
Now, what is the number one? Is there a number one requested item that they usually ask you to autograph? Is there something that you find yourself signing more than other things?
Um, well, I've signed a lot of posters where they've got everybody on them, which I always feel, should I really be signing something that Harrison Ford has signed, be on the same poster? But no, that's the early on. I mean, I signed a few helmets, but that isn't. I shouldn't have done really, because I wasn't a stormtrooper. But they all wanted me to sign that, and it's just basically mainly photographs actually,
Yeah.
and books as well. Some people collect some of the nice sort of picture, almost encyclopedias of Star Wars. So they find the page or pages that are relevant to me, and I tend to sign those.
Well, the Star Wars franchise has such a strong bond with the fans, and I feel like
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if you're a Harrison Ford or if you're somebody with a smaller role than Harrison. It doesn't really matter. Everybody is kind of looked at as the Star Wars family, so everybody's kind
oh
of on the
yeah,
same
yeah.
level.
I mean, for a long while, all I knew was I didn't realize the part I played. I just knew I was one of Darth Vader's men in black. And it wasn't till I found out that I was an Imperial officer. I'd forgotten about what I was told when I first joined. And then I was very lucky in that they brought out a figure, an Imperial officer figure. And on the back of it, I've got an example here. It was this one here. And on the back of it is a photograph where I am the one with the moustache. There we are.
With the
He's just there.
mustache, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So quite a few people want those and sort of asked me to send them. But I was just incredibly lucky.
Yeah.
And also the fact I was the only person with a moustache. I
Right.
kind of
Exactly.
stood out. Actually.
Yep. Makes you kind of
Yeah.
stand out, like you said, and that was such a big role, really. It was a big scene to be a part of. You're there for
Mm,
the entrance of the emperor, and that
that's
was such
right.
a big moment. So you're standing there with 200 or so other actors. What was that experience like?
Um, there weren't quite as many as you think, because a lot of it was added post. Um, but no, there were quite a few. There must be about, I would have thought about 150 or something like that. I just knew a very few of them because I was new into the business. I just felt very sorry for the stormtroopers because once they were in the uniform, they couldn't get out of it until the end of the day.
Right.
And some of them had great difficulty even eating, never mind more bodily functions.
Right.
But certainly one or two of them weren't allowed to eat because they couldn't get out of the costume. And also that because if you got out of the costume, you might damage it. They're fairly fragile plastic. This is why a lot of them at the end of filming were thrown into a dump at Elstree Studios. Now, if anyone had known, you could have picked them up and they'd be quite valuable now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
They just
Wow.
finished in a dumpster.
And would that be the case with pretty much all of them? Everybody would discard them?
Yeah, yeah. We weren't allowed to take them home with us. So the costume people would maybe keep a few, but if they knew they weren't going to be using them again, they go into the dump. They haven't got the room to look after them. And also the first three films were, well, there was a bigger gap than Empire and then Jedi. And then there was a long gap till the new friend, what I termed the new lot. So the old lot were more personal people, as opposed to it got very fancy with all these odd characters that were brought in. in about the second or third after Jedi. I can't remember the titles now, but they were. That's why I think people prefer the full three, the original three. If you appeared in the original three, they have more link with them.
Sure. And obviously, you know, as you said, you were an Imperial officer, part of Darth Vader's crew there. Now, is it true that you were originally fitted as a stormtrooper and it didn't fit?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I went there and I was luckily I didn't fit into a stormtrooper, so I got the black uniform instead.
So it was a blessing in disguise, really, because they got to see your face.
Exactly, yes.
And you didn't have to, you know, deal with the restrictions of the costume, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how about favorite characters? If you kind of chime in your inner fan, who were some of your favorite characters in the Star Wars franchise?
I think as it goes to the first, the main three, I obviously have a close affection for Darth Vader. And what else? Palpatine, I suppose, to a certain degree. I quite like that character, actually. I mean, I always remember, I used to be able to recite it straight away. I've had to write it down to jog my memory now. But his speech about patience, my friend, if he will, was it? Patience, my friend, he will seek you out. And when he does, you must bring him before me.
Yes.
That's his speech as he walks along the line.
Yeah. And some of those smaller ships that would land inside there for the Emperor's entrance, were those CGI or were there actual large models there?
No, mainly CGI.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got, I'm sure you've seen pictures of the sort of the before and after, where you see the exterior of the interior walls of the studio, and it's all then sort of filled in. But no, it was so at one end of the studio was just the cone where he walks off and just walks on down the line. There wasn't a full spaceship there. It's all quite incredible to see how the finished product is put together. Actually,
and the big premiere of that, you know, in London there. What was the reaction like from, you know, everybody involved?
Well, as I said, when I went to it wasn't a premiere, it was a gala showing about a week or so after it opened. And it was very much a talking point then. I mean, I've still got the original program from that, which I kept for some reason. And it's full of photographs from the first one. But I think it still kind of faded off because there was such a big gap between that one and Empire. So it was about 85, what was it, 75, 80, or 75, 79, 83, wasn't it? The different release dates for them. But it seemed to come back again with Jedi, actually. Yeah.
And is it true that you came back in 2018 for Solo, A Star Wars Story as a landside traveler?
Yes, I did, yeah. I was in a scene where we were queuing up to get on to the starship or whatever it is. And Solo was trying to miss the guards who were watching him. I think somebody in Germany actually did a screenshot for me. And he said that was landside
Traveler.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, it was good to get back on that actually.
And how was it to experience that after, there being such a gap from Return of the Jedi and Solo? So it's a different world, it's a different era. What did it feel like to get back in there?
Oh, it was nice to get back. Um, it was a lot more sort of claustrophobic. This was one that Howard did. Um, uh, he took over direction of it, didn't he? From there were two guys who got sacked, I think, or
Yes.
were removed, and Ron Howard then came in. And then a few months later, he came back to do some pickups, and the scene I was in was that sort of pickup. So it was all the crew were all new to me, but and also the background people. Most of the background people, they weren't any from my Star Wars days. Actually, the one I'd like to have got back onto was the one that Harrison Ford did, the first one of the. I can't remember what it's called now. Actually, where he reappeared as the older.
Yeah. Force Awakens?
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would like to have got back onto that one actually, but it wasn't to be.
Right.
Yeah.
It's great that, you were able to get involved again and kind of come full
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah.
What an opportunity there. And, when you look at the different eras of Star Wars, did you notice any of the same crew on set, or was it completely different, staff?
It was pretty well different actually. It's the crews is very rare that you'll come across the same crew all the time. Sometimes you'll see the same DOP or the same cameraman or people like that who tend to sort of work together in a group. But in the main, the crew tends to be a different lot most of the time. So, and also, I suppose, when I did Jedi, I didn't really know any of the crew, or everybody was new to me. So, the crew you tend to get to know a few of them, but it tends to be the artists tend to stick together, the crew stick together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because we have downtime, whereas they're always working, doing setting scenes up, things like that.
Sure.
So they haven't got as much time to relax and chat and get on with. They've got to get on with their work.
And rewinding back to Return of the Jedi, what,
Yeah.
I guess the production itself, for you personally, how long were you involved with the filming? Was it a one-day thing? Was it a few weeks? How long did it last?
It was a one day. It was a one day one actually.
Wow.
Literally.
And was it one take, or were there several takes?
Oh no, there were several takes over a long day. And that was the other story I remember. I used to wear glasses in those days. Well, I still do, but not as much as I used to. And so we came off set. I put my glasses on. Then we were all called back on set for another shot. We didn't know it was a rehearsal or an actual take. And the Imperial officer next to me, as the camera went by, said, "You've still got your glasses on." So I had to quickly take them off. And luckily, that obviously wasn't a finished take, thank goodness.
Sure, yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I mean, things like that do happen where there have been other scenes where there was a fire extinguisher left, or,
Oh, yes, yeah.
So it does happen.
Sort of, or sort of digital watches in Roman times,
Yes.
that type of thing.
So then you went on to appear on screen in Sherlock Holmes films, 2009, 2011. What was that experience like, being on that set?
Oh, that was good. We did one on location at a a club in London on the first one, the Reform Club, which is in the centre of one of these sort of gentlemen's clubs in London. Still beautifully laid out inside. So we had the dinner scene or lunch scene there. And then the second one was actually done at Elstree. There was about a year or so between the two. Again, one day on both of them, actually. No, it was a very nice day. By then, obviously, I knew quite a few of the other background people. So we got on very well. Similarly with the second one, where I certainly worked with one person on both of them who I've known for a very long time. And in fact, I still keep in touch with. He's in very poor health, lives about 20 miles away from me. Keep in touch to see how he is. So we've worked together now for 40 plus years.
Wow, yeah, that's nice.
So there are one or two others that I've kept in touch with as well. One, two, and three straight away. Sadly, a lot of them are passing away or falling off the perch, as they say.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you went on to be seen as a computer operator for GoldenEye.
That's
another
right,
great experience.
Yes.
What was that like?
That was good. I mean, I wasn't too au fait in working on a computer in those days. But no, that was a good one. In fact, the man I was with on that was also on the Sherlock Holmes ones, as funnily enough. But yeah, no, that was a nice one. Brosnan was very nice. Also, I knew quite a few of the crew because the Bond films did tend to keep the same cameraman, director, assistant director, things like that. So John GoldenEye, that I come the director of that. I worked with him on something else, but was it View to a Kill, which I did. There was John Glenn, who I bumped into at we were doing a convention together, and my scene actually got cut. I played a gendarme who lets Bond out of Paris jail. But this whole scene was dropped. He chases through Paris in a car. You see him almost going into a police station. The next thing, he's been released. But there was a whole scene inside, which was done at Elstree, at Pinewood. And then when I bumped into John Glenn and mentioned that, and he said, "Oh yes," he said, "but you'll find it on the extras on the DVD," which I did, and he said the reason it was dropped, A for time constraints, but also the French actor they brought in to play the main gendarme played it more like Clouseau in Pink Panther, so it was a bit too humorous.
Yes.
It didn't really fit in. The humour should be from Bond, not from the secondary characters.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most challenging part about being in the entertainment industry?
Not giving up hope, keep on going, and belief in yourself, I think, really. It'd be so simple just to think, oh, I can't keep on doing this. You know, you're always having to chase up work. But if you want to do it, as I always did, I was determined to do it. In the early days, as I say, I ran other shop. I had a bookshop as well at one stage. In the early 80s, when I was filming, I was also, when I wasn't on set, I was in my bookshop for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Which you had to get, in fact, to to survive, really, because you couldn't survive on a day or two. You had to have a constant source of income.
Right.
But once you got onto that plane, you could then get regular work. Then it was possible to do it without becoming a waiter or doing table or whatever.
Yeah.
Which all actors seem to do. This work in restaurants or what have you to keep going.
Yeah. What could you tell us about the casting process? You know, you've been a part of so many films. What is the casting process like?
Well, it tells you have an agent who gets the brief, and they will then contact me or whoever and say, "Am I free?" And sometimes you've got to go in for an audition, or more recently, in fact, since COVID came, it's been video castings, and it's all that. I mean, I stopped working 2 years ago. Up till then, I think still all casting for better stuff is done through a video casting. You do a sort of a quick minute and a half, basically showing your face both ways, hands, saying a little bit about yourself. And sometimes you've got to do a scene, react, something like that. Which if you went into a casting, they would ask you to read something or express your feelings for a particular scene. And then you, fingers crossed, you get the job, or you go on. If you don't get a call, you haven't got a job, you go on to the next one.
Right, exactly.
But
well, 1991...
don't give up. That's the important thing.
Yeah. 1991, you would go on to King Ralph with John Goodman. What was your...
Oh, yes, yeah. Oh, that was great fun, actually. I was playing one of the royal family that gets executed. That was actually, I presume you would have had The Diplomat, a Netflix series. That was filmed in the place where they film The Diplomat.
Oh.
We come down that staircase and sit down and then get electrocuted.
Wow.
Yeah. But that location, I remember its name now, actually, that is often used on films. I mean, I tend to recognize locations by sort of the interior of that place has got all these paintings. The exterior has this lovely scooped staircase going down into the garden, and you go below to the kitchen area. So that's all used on The Diplomat.
And you mentioned Batman, obviously, 1989. Yeah. You played the waiter. Yeah. You know, Batman went on to become such a huge film, that being the original movie. What was that experience like?
Well, that was great. The first one was the playing. Now, I wasn't a waiter. I was one of the guests there at this function where Batman arrives. I mean, that was done at another stately home, the other side from where I live, about sort of 10, 15 miles away. But that one, it was funny actually. I didn't know who was playing Batman. And we went along, and I presumed that Batman, there would be Robin as well. I didn't realise they got rid of Robin. And I remember we were all standing around in our right positions. The stand-ins had been moved out, and Keaton came in, and I said to somebody standing next to me, "Is that Batman or is it Robin?" Because he's not all that tall. So I presumed that was Robin, and Batman was somebody else. I feel very guilty,
Right.
but it was very good actually. I think it's the best one. I then also played a policeman in the night scenes where Jack Nicholson is spreading everybody with this deadly dust or whatever it is.
Yes.
When he's in the balloon coming in, and he used to. Maybe I should say this or not. He used to come out of his trailer. It was about 5 or 6 evenings, and it was towards the end. He was obviously on overtime, and he used to come out of his trailer and say, "Another night, another $250,000."
Yeah. Yeah. A good problem to have, right?
Yeah, exactly.
In 1988, you would go on to also be a part of Willow. You were a nobleman.
Yeah,
What was that
yeah.
film project like?
That was nice. And got another Ron Howard thing. Again, it's another stately home. I can't remember. I mean, I've got the photographs dressed up in it, but I've never actually watched Willow right the way through, which I really should do. It hasn't cropped up on TV over here recently, but maybe I shall make an effort to find it on Netflix or something.
Yeah. And you were also a part of Superman, The Quest for
Yeah,
Peace, Part 4.
yeah.
You know, what's it like to be a part of, Superman and Batman? You're on both sides of the spectrum there.
Well, that's right. I've been very lucky in that respect. Unfortunately, it was the worst of the four of the Superman ones. It was done very cheaply. This is Canon Films, Golden and Globus, and it was supposed to be the exterior of the Planet Building or something like that, I think actually, or the State House, and it was basically a station, a Milton Keynes station, about 20 miles away from here. But it was good fun. I played a reporter that was sort of chasing Batman, trying to get him to, Superman, trying to chase him to get a story as he was walking around. But again, I was very close to it, so therefore there were some good shots of the two of me and Reeve together with a few other people as well. And it was fantastic seeing him scooping in, obviously, not from too far a distance, on a, the way he was sort of strung up and come down to land. But no, he was a nice guy, actually. Very
You were able to
friendly
have some
everybody.
interactions with him.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. But it was, sadly, the first one was terrific, and the second and third. But that one really was obviously the one he had to do to finish his contract.
Right.
Yeah.
The fourth one, was that the one with Gene Hackman and Richard Pryor?
No. Don't think so.
Okay.
Can't remember that. I don't think so.
Then, of course, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
another project. Was that a bigger project, a grander project when you look at it, the sets, or not really?
The sets were fantastic. The opening set, which I was involved with, the Club Omi-Wan, was it? That was beautifully done at Elstree Studios. And we spent about 2 weeks on that scene, actually. And then Harrison was hurt himself, so it came to a full stop. And about a month later, we went back and finished the scene to basically chasing the diamond around the floor. I know on one occasion we were all running in every direction. I banged into Kate Spielberg's wife,
Oh,
who played the female lead. The Capsule.
oh,
Capsule.
I'm not sure of the name.
She was the female lead in it.
Oh,
And I sent
I don't
her
think I
flying.
realized that.
Yeah, this was obviously before they were married.
Wow.
But Spielberg is fantastic director and into everything, making sure everything is right. And he was usually behind the lens of the camera on most times. He was a very good friend of mine who I've known for years, was the second cameraman on it. And he said, Spielberg always sort of rushes in and takes over the camera wanting to see exactly how it's done. And he looks terrific as well, actually.
Yeah.
And they built this fantastic exterior scene of an Indian castle with steps going up and down on the back lot at Elstree. And I was very lucky to have got a picture taken on the steps of it, actually, in our sort of dinner suits. But it was a nice one to work on. And also it was nice to be working on something for a long period of time.
Sure.
So then you do tend to get to know people better. You're turning up every day at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock. You're going away together at sort of 7 in the evening.
Yeah.
And spending most of the day together in the green room or working. I mean, I've always said in this business, you get paid for sitting around doing nothing and throw in the work for free
Right.
at the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Any memories from Interview with the Vampire?
Oh, yes. You've really got the whole list there. Yes, I mean, that was I can't remember what the scene, I can see the scene now. We were in the theatre. Quite a lot of people there. I didn't realise then the people there was Brad Pitt, who'd taken over from River Phoenix, was it? Who died before making it. And there was this very young Brad Pitt there, which I never realised until few years later, actually, that I'd worked with him on that. But no, it was an enjoyable day there, actually. Again, all in Victorian clothing, which wasn't too uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Watching this show, I can't remember his characters now, but he was. There was so they had some models on the stage, things like that. I haven't seen that for a while, actually. I'll have to go through all these and watch them all again.
Yeah, give a refresh,
Yeah.
Another film you were part of in the 80s, 1984, it was Top Secret. Any memories of that?
Oh, yes. With Val Kilmer. We were all singing some Russian song on the steps outside. Somebody has found a shot of me from it. And in fact, at one stage, I was standing next to Omar Sharif. For some reason, he was on the set. I don't know whether he was just visiting or whether he was actually in the scene. I think he was. He had a small part in the film.
Yeah.
I mean, it was good fun, that, actually. I was originally asked if I would play, if I could sing, which I can't, to be one of the three people who finish up at the very end singing with Val Kilmer. It's kind of the number now. I'm glad they were actually dubbed, but I thought I I just can't go for that.
Yeah.
If they actually use my voice, I'll be thrown out straight away.
Right. Some things you just don't feel comfortable
Yeah,
doing. Yeah.
the bass of Paul Robeson and the quality of a drain.
Now, one of my questions was a keepsake. Is there something special that you have from your career you still have to this day? You mentioned that program. Is that your big keepsake item that you hold close, or is there something else as well?
Um, no, I think that's the only one for Star Wars,
Yeah.
and obviously these figures that I have from Star Wars. Um, no, I don't suppose I think basically the keepsakes are photographs from things like that. Actually.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I never kept sort of a prop or a costume or anything like that. Uh, no, I think it's the memories actually that are the great thing actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's why it's nice to talk about it and experience
Oh, yeah,
some
yeah.
of those memories again.
Yeah, there was also another space series called Space Precinct. I don't know if you have ever come
I've heard
across
of it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a couple of episodes of that. Um, there were, I think, about 20 or 30 episodes. Um, I did the first episode and about the 10th episode. I played an assistant district attorney in the very first, and a doctor, Martin or something or other, who has this large gorilla in a scene. I haven't seen. I've seen this episode one, but I've never been able to catch the later episode. But that was very popular. I'm not surprised that it was never brought back. Actually, I don't know whether they didn't do another series. They filmed for almost a year doing it. But, as I
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, no, go on, please.
I was just going to say, what is catering like on the sets? You know, is it extravagant or is it just, something small in the back? How does that usually work?
Oh, it varies actually. It's getting worse. It used to be very, very good. Um, I remember on Batman, was it Return, the last Batman film? Was it Batman Returns? The very last one.
Okay.
I think it was that one.
I think so.
Oh, yeah. That the catering was fantastic, which is obviously it was an American crew. So you had sort of breakfast. You would go from one station to the next to the next. Whereas normally you're queuing up in front of a lorry that's converted into a kitchen and get your food. Some of the food's fantastic, actually. I spent 10 years working on a TV series called Lewis, or Inspector Lewis, the follow-up to Inspector Morse. And the food on that was always good, actually. We always had a very good catering crew, as well as, that was good. It was a very happy 10 years on that. I was standing in for the lead, Kevin Wakely, who played Lewis in Morse, and also playing small parts like the Mayor of Oxford. It's all set in the city of Oxford, like Morse. So I played small parts like solicitors, the mayor, things like that. You usually won a series. So those were very happy years, actually.
And all these experiences that you've had, the dozens of films that you've been a part of, is there one experience that you can kind of pick out? What would be your number one favorite memory, favorite experience throughout your career?
Well, I think I have to go back to Star Wars because what I did, maybe I didn't appreciate it then, but it's brought me in together with a lot of people around the world through Facebook, through like your own show. that are Star Wars fans, and it means a lot to me now that I was in orbit for one day, that I'm able to have this large Star Wars family.
Yeah.
So I think it has to be that, actually. Star Wars and Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. And fast forward many years from now, what do you want your legacy to be? How do you want to be remembered?
Well, I don't know. At least he tried, I think is the expression I use. Maybe that should be put on my tombstone. If at first you don't succeed, try again.
Right.
Don't
And in
give up.
closing, special advice that you have for somebody that's looking to get into the world of acting, any little bits of advice other than what you've given already?
Well, I just think that if you want to do it, you've got to make sure you do and persevere. Don't give up. Keep on. If you get knocked back, don't give up. You've got to have a belief in yourself, and if you do, I'm sure you will succeed.
Well, Ken, thank you so much for joining us this week, and thank you for all of your contributions. It's a pleasure to have you here on the All Access Entertainment Podcast. For Ken Coombs, I'm Joseph Bruen. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and thank you for joining us here as we continue on with Sci-Fi Week. Ken, thank you again.
Thank you, Joseph.